Hey woodworkers, I wanted to talk to you about the difference between a respirator and a dust mask. So they do very different things, and it's important to know which one you're buying versus what it is you're hoping to defend against. And so a simple dust mask, usually some type of a paper or a cloth material here. The difference between a quality one like this one and something that is a paper dust mask is that it has this little filter here. So as I'm wearing this thing, I'm breathing out, all of the air will escape through this little valve, and these sections around that valve filters fresh air in for me to breathe. So it's important that you know about these things. They're good for particulate matter. So as a woodworker, I'm doing a lot of sanding, possibly carving or grinding or shaping of these things where it becomes airborne. If I don't have one of these things, all of that stuff becomes atomized and it becomes something that's very easy for us to inhale. So a good barrier here is important. And not all these are created equal. Two things to watch for. Number one is the size of the particulate that you're guarding against. This one is an N95, and the 95 number is important because the higher the number, the smaller the particulate that it's going to filter against. If this was an N90, then slightly larger particles can filter in. Anyway, 95 is kind of the standard size for these things. You can get them all the way up to 99, and then I forget how low you can get. This one I like a lot because it has this neoprene seal all the way around it, and that's just much more comfortable around my skin. I don't have paper or whatever this filtration material is. It seems like it creates a better seal or a gasket on my face. So anyway, I like these ones. These are good for particles, again, sanding, whatever. Good idea even with using these things in the machine. So on a table saw, sometimes you're breathing in a lot of that material and you're not thinking about it. These ones are great for that. So, all right, this is a dust mask. A respirator is slightly different. Similar concept. This one goes over where you breathe, obviously, and it has on this one 2 different filters. These filters or cartridges are replaceable, so you can screw this one back in, get rid of it when it goes bad or is no longer effective. The rating on these cartridges is about 40 hours, and the thing that's confusing is that even if you're not wearing this thing, if you just have this out, I've seen a lot of woodworkers, they just hang this on a hook somewhere, and these things are still filtering, or so they claim. So being cautious of that. The other thing is what it is it's filtering for, and there are 2 stripes on this. One is for particulates, which is the yellow stripe on this one. Yeah. And then the purple stripe, that is for the vapor, anything that's become atomized there. So that's more of the chemical component that we're filtering against. So any finishing that I'm doing, I'm going to wear a respirator. And the thing about it is, if I'm spray finishing, you can kind of get a sense of that material being in the air, but if I'm brushing something on, I'm still breathing in those solvents as they're off-gassing from that finish. Without this type of a filter, and if it's just the yellow, I'm still breathing in those VOCs, or volatile organic compounds. So being careful that you have the right filter or cartridge for your respirator is important. And it's critical because this is a long-term exposure situation. So this one, I was going to show you the fitting of this, and it's got 2 different straps, which I'll show you here in a sec. One for the crown of your head, and then the other goes around the back of your neck, and that helps to keep it engaged where it needs to. The thing that's frustrating about this is that you want to tighten this thing and over tighten it, and right when it's at the point of producing a headache for you, in that split second moment, that's the perfect setting for how tight you need this thing to be. I remember being being in front of a demonstration about how to properly size these things. And anyway, they pulled somebody out of the audience. He put this thing on, tightened it up to where he thought it was good, and then they did some type of a test, and he had to pull. Anyway, he was yanking on these cables to make sure this got tighter and tighter and tighter, but it's typically a little bit tighter than you think it needs to be. Having said all of that, these things are only effective if you're wearing them, and if you're strapping or wrenching these things down so tight that you don't want to wear it, that starts to become a concern. So what I'm going to do on this one is I'll do a little test to fit. Now this one's been mine for years and it fits, but what I'm looking for, and what you should on a new respirator, is making sure you have the right seal. And the seal happens all the way around this section here onto your face. If you have facial hair, this becomes a problem, right? Because there's no way I can actually get this to seat properly against the skin. So being aware of that, maybe a different style of respirator is a better option for you. There's something that fits all the way around your face. So I'm going to put this thing on. I'll cinch up the crown and then the back of the neck. I'm going to do a test where I'm going to cover up with my palms the cartridges where air is coming in. And if I'm holding these things well and I can't breathe in, then I'll know that I have an effective seal here and around my face. If I'm doing this and then air comes in through the sides of this respirator, then I know it's too loose and I have to tighten it. And you should all do this when you get one of these things. And again, over tightening is probably in your future. And all right, and when I put this thing on, you're not going to be able to hear or understand me. So that's why I want to tell you what I'm doing before I do it. Okay, good. I can still breathe out, but nothing is coming in. You can see it start to compress, but I'm not getting anything from the sides. If I did want to tighten, I would pull here. There are some straps on the back. I don't know if you heard any of that. The straps on the back, but these could get cinched down as well and make this thing really tight. The other thing about this is a must is that I always keep it into some type of a sealed container, and that just extends the life of these. The other thing that I think is always a good rule of thumb is if I'm wearing a respirator and I'm doing anything with chemicals, if I could smell the chemicals, then I know that the filters are no longer doing their job. So new filters, keep these things constantly replaced. It's so much easier to deal with this now instead of dealing with the long-term effects, which are no fun. Okay, different style here. I found on that first respirator that it was a little bit uncomfortable because it hit right on the bridge of my nose. And if I'm wearing this thing for anything longer than 20 minutes, I start to notice it, which is unfortunate because you won't know until you commit to buying this thing and go from there. This very similar concept. It has a single cartridge, but a lot of surface area. So I'm allowed to breathe in a lot of material here. And I've got two valves on either side. And this one has two different cartridges. And I can connect these two together so that now I'm filtering for VOCs as well as particulate. So it wouldn't make any sense to leave the VOC filter on unless you can't get it off. It might be on there. So unless I'm dealing with finishes, I'm going to leave this one off or take it off. This particular one, that's majority of what I'm doing, sanding and everything else. So anyway, after I stop the camera, I'm going to pull this one off. Same rules apply with this one. Fitting this to your mouth and then covering this surface here, breathing in. If I can't breathe in anything, I know this is working. And this one is a little bit different, but this strap goes around my neck. This one with the little pad goes on the crown of my head. So I'm able to get some air movement through this, and it has to do with these filters. What this particular unit comes with is a test plug here, and this goes inside. Having a tough day with masks. Oh, it goes between. No, it goes right here. So I'll put this test plug here, putting on this outer filter. All right, so I've done this before to do the test fit of this, but it's really scary because this is sealing out all that incoming fresh air. And if that is keeping you from breathing and you're out of control of breathing, something to be aware of. But I'm going to do a quick test, and then I'll take this off. So nothing was coming in, and it's incredibly effective. This one is really fantastic for being able to diagnose where the gaps are, and if it works, that's great. If you're not getting any fresh air in, then there's a problem. Okay, so different styles of those things. Something that's kind of an intermediate that replaces that dust mask. This is something that looks very similar to that respirator that we were talking about. Has this rubber seal, and it's got two different filters on the side, a little valve in the front. I really like this one a lot for prolonged use. I could wear this thing for a lot longer, and I wear it all the time. You can see I should probably clean this before I do my next video with it, but it's very comfortable, and it does the filtration for us. These filters are replaceable, and it's a really good system. I can't overemphasize enough the importance of getting into proper safety and getting good habits as far as what it is you're doing. If you're dealing and exposing yourself to really dangerous things, woodworkers typically do, those silent dangers are kind of the tricky ones. So we're talking about VOCs and sawdust. Those things take years and years and years to accumulate enough to really become an issue. Same thing with hearing protection. That's one of those long-term effect things, but after it's gone, then it's a one-way path and you're kind of in the middle of it. So just being cautious, being wise. I think that's everything. Okay, be safe. Enjoy your woodworking.